The President, Nigerian Young Academy, Dr. Abiodun Egbetokun is with us. I recognize all awardees, all inductees, all members and fellows of NYA here present, and those that are joining us virtually, supporters of the 10th anniversary, the COC Chair, Dr. Rotimi Oluwatosin, you are recognized. All members of the COC, thank you for the good job. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the program for today, like I said, ought to have come up in August. However, even though we started very early after the last GA last year, that we are going to have a very big event for this year, which symbolizes the 1 decade existence of the NYA. Unfortunately, COVID-19 came in and we were all locked down. And so it interrupted our plan, but then we could not do without coming up with this program for the year, because we already made our advertisement, we got the award prizes advertisement, the membership advertisement and all that, and people already applied for all those. And we don't want this year to just be vacant in the history of the academy, because it is very, very significant in the history of the academy. So with all that interrupting our program, we just have to find a way of doing something this year, and so we are having a combined event of both physical and virtual participation. So we have our members and fellows also joining us virtually. Without wasting much time, I will want us to rise and read the national anthem. The technical crew, please. Are we ready for the national anthem? Yes, we can do it. Okay, technical crew, are we fine?
Maybe we just...
On the count of 3, please, you can respond. 1, 2, 3. First answer.
Rise to conquer truth, Nigeria's call obey, to serve our fatherland with love and strength and faith. The labor of our heroes past shall never be in vain. To serve with heart and mind, one nation bound in freedom, peace and unity.
Thank you. Well, I come to take the national anthem. Our keynote speaker, the distinguished Professor Babajide Alo, FNS Kirin, you are welcome. He is the former Deputy Vice Chancellor, University of Lagos. I would like to call on the President of the Nigerian Young Academy, Dr. Abiodun Egbetokun, to give the presidential address. The President.
Thank you, the Master of Ceremony.
President, Nigerian Academy of Science, Professor Moscow Onua, distinguished Professor Babajide, ladies and gentlemen, you are very welcome to this special occasion. And on behalf of the entire leadership of the Nigerian Young Academy, I want to welcome you to the occasion that is the 10th anniversary of the existence of the Nigerian Young Academy. And is our 10th General Assembly. It also marks an occasion where we are inducting one of the largest groups of new members. That is top class and high quality scientists and young persons in whom we believe that this nation could invest some hope for the future. I welcome you once again to Lagos State, the Center of Excellence. To introduce you very quickly to the Nigerian Young Academy. In February 2010, the Global Young Academy was established in the capital city of Germany. And it was agreed at that meeting that young academies carry a lot of promise for the future of science, not only in the developed world, but also in the developing world. And so it was agreed that as the Millennium Development Goals at that time and subsequently the Sustainable Development Goals were being pursued all over the world, the goal of establishing young academies should also be pursued. A couple of months after that, in May 2010, the Executive Council of the Nigerian Academy of Science approved the establishment of a young academy in Nigeria. And by the 30th of August 2010, the Nigerian Young Academy was inaugurated at the end of the workshop that was convened at the Redeemers University, then in Mowe, Ogun State. As an academy, we exist as the unified platform for the exchange of ideas across disciplines and regions, and we seek to nurture ideas across disciplines, and we seek to help we seek to provide a platform for aspiring young academics and professionals to contribute their quota towards the development of our country. Our core values are twofold. The first, integrity, and the second, excellence. All of these in research and collaboration. And this is one of the reasons why a lot of the things that we do settle upon two principal activities. That is outreach among young academies and also trying to bridge the research policy gap. To become a member of the Young Academy, you need to be a scientist who is no more than 40 years old if you are male, and no more than 45 years old if you are female. Until a couple of years ago, you needed to be younger than 40, whether you were male or female. I think the change from 40 to 45 for women happened in 2017, if I'm not mistaken. And that is to show you that we're a progressive academy, consistently making ourselves aware of the changes in the scientific landscape. Also trying to be as sensitive as we can to the potential challenges that our female counterparts face. We only have at least a master's degree. At least a master's degree. Now, to many of us, it may sound a bit far-fetched to say that in a committee that includes several PhD holders, it may be difficult for a master's holder to even stand a chance. But I can tell you that in this country, we do have people who become as outstanding as they can be as early as the days when they are studying for their master's degree. And I believe that every one of you here are like that. And we look for scholarly publications in reputable journals. We look for scholarly and leadership attributes as well. So for us, it's not just about being an excellent researcher, we also want to associate with excellent people who have the promise of charting the next course as far as scientific advancement is concerned. Now, if there's anyone here listening to me who is not yet a member and feel that it fits the bill, please look out for our membership application, our membership call. This comes out usually at the start of every year. So in 2021, sometimes in the month of January, before the end of January, the calls will come. We have a very wonderful working relationship with the Nigerian Academy of Science, which is the largest academy of science on the African continent. So we're very proud to have like a father-child relationship with the Nigerian Academy of Science. And I would like to place it on record at this point that for as far back as I can remember, NAS has graciously supported us in the production of the very excellent conference materials that you are holding in your hands. The fact that NAS has oversight over us does not mean that they are overbearing. Our relationship is very cordial. It's like a father-child relationship, but at the same time, they allow us freedom to operate. So we choose our members by ourselves, but we remain accountable. So NAS helps us to ensure that we do things at the highest level of integrity. And we provide an annual report to the Nigerian Academy of Science. We do have several activities and several outputs that come out from our activities. One of the most popular of these is the NYA newsletter that we produce once every quarter. The last edition for the year 2020 was volume 4, number 4, which was produced in the month of October. We attempt to circulate this widely on our social media handles. On Twitter, you will find us at Contact NYA. On Facebook, you will just, with a simple search for Nigerian Young Academy, you will locate us easily, and you can see the latest issue of the newsletter as well as the back issues. We have an official journal known as the Annals of Science and Technology. Now, in tandem with the direction of scientific dissemination these days, our journal is fully open access. Fully open access, so if you put a paper in there, it is guaranteed that this is going to be perpetually openly accessible online. The Annals of Science and Technology is published by a reputable publisher, Sciendo, and it is archived and it is listed in some of the most well-known bibliographic databases out there. Over the next 5 years, we seek to be one of the leading young academies, not only in Africa, but in the world. As of today, I'm proud to tell you that we are the longest standing and the largest academy of young scientists on the African continent. It's rewarding to hear that, but that's only after the South African Young Academy of Science. There's another story behind that which I will not go into today. Apart from this conference and general assembly, we have a series of workshops that we run annually. And one of the things that gives me great pleasure is that among the cohort of new members that we'll be inducting today, some of you are from universities and regions of the country from where we never had members before. We have a member joining us today who will be inducted later from Federal University Dutton. We've never had a member from there before. So this extends our reach beyond what we've ever had before. And what we do is that our members act as our ambassadors in this university so that at some point we can register our presence and place our feet on the ground in all of these places. There are 6 prizes that have been awarded graciously by members of fellows of the Nigerian Academy of Science. Some of the prizes will be presented here today, and you will learn a lot more about them as we proceed. And so, some of the workshops we've had in the past, anti-plagiarism workshops, We've been to Eforum, Federal University of Petroleum Resources in 2017. We were at the University of Medical Sciences in Ondo in 2018. We were at Covenant University in 2018. We were at the African University of Science and Technology in Abuja in 2018. Ahmadu Bello University Zaria in 2019. So if you would like us to visit your university at some point, please feel free to let us know. We've had a series of capacity building workshops as well. 5 webinars, all very well attended during the course of this year. And on that note, I want to welcome you once again to this Academy of High-Flying Young Scientists. And I do believe that, like I'm sure that I will do, you will also enjoy today's proceedings. Thank you and welcome once again.
Thank you, Mr. President. One thing I want the President of NYA to be is that he selects his words carefully, top-rated, excellent, and so on and so forth. Thank you for taking us through that 1 decade journey in a few minutes. For the purpose of proper introduction, your MC is Dr. Lukman Asokami. I'm a lecturer at Babel University. Okay. The next thing on the list of events is the address by the President of Nigerian Academy of Science. So I would like to invite the Executive Secretary of NAS, Dr. Toyin Banjo, to give the address of the President of NAS.
Okay, thank you. The President of NYA, keynote speaker, Mr. Yes. Other protocols we believe are now established. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'll begin by offering the apologies on behalf of the President of the Nigerian Academy of Science, who could not be here at this time. This period has turned out to be extremely busy for him. Has a lot of scheduling issues now, and is busy traveling all over the place from his base in Sudan. So I bring you greetings on his behalf as Professor Moscow Onoha, FPS, who is president actually till January 2021. And then we'll have our first female president be taken over from him. That's Professor Kanifri, FPS. I'm glad I was just flipping through the book for the conference. And I'm glad that I could see a paper at the back of that gives the historical perspective to the NYA. It's one of the things I thought was important to mention at a time like this, at this occasion of the 10th anniversary. I don't know how many people were there at the birth of the NYA, but I was. I was there in 2010. At the university, at the Redeemers University at Norway, and recall all the great effort put in to put together that workshop at the time. We had Professor Iwale Tomori, who is the past president of the Nigerian Academy of Science, as the vice chancellor of the Redeemers University at that time. And we had Professor Yevida Pobia, the president of the Academy of Science. And we put in a lot of work to put this up. Of course, Professor Tomori was very willing to post it because he was very passionate about mentoring and all that, and that's why he got there. And I must recognize the effort of the founding president of the NYA, Professor Emmanuel Unabona, and how much work and effort. In fact, recently, incidentally, I was remembering him just a day or two ago. And I was remembering one of the tough times that he had where he just said, you know what, I'm resigning. I just remember that especially, and he just said, no, I'm resigning. In fact, he had written up his letter and said, and I had to call him and say, President, what is going on, And then we talked, and I had to drag him to Professor Blackop's house and say, please don't do this kind of thing. But thank God, 10 years later, the baby is really growing. So I must say that the Nigerian Academy of Science is the highest independent scientific body in Nigeria. And it inducts, just like you are doing, into its fellowship distinguished scientists who have really excelled in their various fields of science, including medicine and engineering. And the Academy is quite renowned globally and is actually the voice of science in global communities for Nigerians or for Nigeria. So the Academy speaks to global bodies like the Inter-Academic Partnership on behalf of the country, the International Science Council, the Network of African Science Academies, just as some of the examples, and has partnerships across the globe, across different continents with various academies, just like the Nigerian Academy of Science. So the interest for NAS was to say, yes, we have produced as a country distinguished scientists, even like our keynote speaker this morning. However, what happens, going back down the line, would we continue to have great scientists like this? And that was the interest of the Academy of Science in saying, or in agreeing with the motivators for the starting of the Nigerian Young Academy, to say, yes, we must have a young academy in order to encourage scientists that are already doing well, even in their younger years. And the hope is that, many of such scientists would also eventually, having proven themselves, would also eventually become president of the Nigerian Academy of Science in due time. So it's just to greet you all, thank you all, and particularly thank the presidents of the NYA, starting from Professor Nambuna right down to Dr. Betuku that we have right now, for great leadership and in driving good progress in this institution. They may not say it, but it's definitely not an easy task. People look at the title and all of that, but there are sleepless nights that the Academy of Science in due time. So it's just to greet you all, thank you all, and particularly thank the presidents of the NYA, starting from Professor Nambuna right down to Dr. Betokun that we have right now, for great leadership and in driving good progress in this institution. They may not say it, but it's definitely not an easy task. People look at the title and all of that, but there are sleepless nights that they endure in order to ensure that these things work. So I want to congratulate you, sir, on 10 years of the NYA, congratulate all the members, and congratulate the inductees. That this by no means is not a small feat, to have been selected. I've seen the reports of selections for many years, and I can tell you it is tough. By nature, academies are restricted in membership. It's whether by rate of increase or by total number, meaning that you must have a fixed total number, or you have a fixed number that you can admit each year, meaning that not all good people get it. So when you get it, you should be congratulated. So I congratulate you all. I congratulate the NYA and bring you best greetings from the President of the Nigerian Academy of Science. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for that address by the President of NAS. While the President of NAS was talking, one thing came to my mind, that actually that you got selected to be member of NYA in one particular year, and peradventure you did not show up for induction, does not mean that when you apply the following year you get selected again. Why? Because even though the criteria remains the same for the scoring and assessment, but the excellence is a revolving thing. Perhaps there would have been some stagnancy in the period of that 1 year in your CV, and then some other people become more excellent than that fellow within the period of the year, and so he loses it. So it is usually a good thing that when you get selected at the point you get inducted. because by that way you will be among the best of the best of academics and researchers in Nigeria. And so that is why that congratulatory message by the president of NAS is a very important one. When I hold the mic like this, I feel the power of like controlling everyone, because I believe whoever is controlling the program controls the entire room. So once again, I thank the COC chairman for giving me this power to control everyone in this room. So if you have offended me in the past, watch out. Yeah, because you may have to stand throughout the entire program. Okay. Research, policy, sustainable development goals, how it could be realized in Nigeria, or how it has been realized, or what has been realized among the SDGs, the challenges and implications. All these are just very important words, and some of them are too technical for me to decode. I do not understand what the challenges are. I do not understand what the implications are, whether Nigeria achieve any of the SDGs or not, and so on and so forth. I don't know what the policy formulation should be in order for Nigeria to achieve the SDGs. But then, I'm quite sure that by placing the right person to do justice to this talk today, we are going to understand all this, the terminologies, the implications of everything that is written in this theme. Our distinguished professor, fellow of a whole lot of academies, fellow of Nigerian Academy of Science, fellow Institute of Chartered Chemists of Nigeria, fellow Institute of Public Analysts of Nigeria, and fellow of a whole lot. So I believe by the time he starts talking, telling us about all this, we are going to know that it's actually a fellow, and we are going to understand everything that is written in this theme that is not clear to us. So I would like to please ask Dr. Timothy Olomala, the immediate past president of NYA, to read to us the citation of our guest speaker or keynote speaker, and then we can listen to the keynote address.
Distinguished Professor Babajide Alo holds a BSc, second class upper division, and a PhD in chemistry from University of Ibadan, Nigeria, and University of Bristol, United Kingdom, respectively. He had an extended postdoctoral work at the University of Waterloo, Ontario, Canada. He is an internationally acknowledged expert in environmental management issues, particularly on chemicals and waste, toxic organic pollutants, issues especially in developing countries with over 25 years experience in international negotiations of global instruments for sustainable development. He is an international acknowledged expert in environmental and maritime issues, especially in developing countries, and has been consulting on issues of sustainable development. He participated in national PrepCom meetings during the global development of the Sustainable Development Goals. He is a fellow and former national president of the Nigerian Environmental Society, a fellow of the Chemical Society of Nigeria, a fellow of the Institute of Public Analysts of Nigeria, a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Chemists of Nigeria, and a fellow of the prestigious Nigerian Academy of Sciences. Professor Alo is a distinguished professor of chemistry and the immediate past deputy vice chancellor, academics and research at the University of Lagos, Nigeria. He is also the past center director, University of Lagos Center for Environmental Human Resources Development, and currently Foreign Affairs Secretary of the Nigerian Academy of Science. Professor Alo is a national consultant on the National Action Plan for Elimination of Mercury in artisanal gold mining in Nigeria. Professor Babajide Alo is widely traveled and has served as chair or co-chair of many United Nations international expert committees, ad hoc groups, meetings, and he has also represented Nigeria as the technical advisor on numerous delegations to global meetings on chemical management, climate change, and maritime sustainable development issues. He is a member of IMO's joint group of experts on the scientific aspects of marine environmental protection and co-author of the UNEP's Global Chemicals Outlook. Professor Alo is a holder of several grants from UNEP, Royal Society of Chemistry, and TETFund, Tertiary Education Trust Fund, and has become a cited authority on studies and transactions on pollution assessment of the Lagos Lagoon system in Nigeria. Professor Babajide Alo has over 160 publications in learned journals and conference proceedings to his credit. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my singular honor this morning to ask us to join me in welcoming Professor Babajide Alo, FAS, the keynote speaker of the 2020 Nigerian Young Academy Anniversary and General Assembly.
The president of my academy, before I come to the old president, the president of the Nigerian Academy of Science, Professor Mostu Onoha, an exquisite geologist, ably represented here this morning by the Executive Secretary of the Academy, Dr. Dori, who by his own right is an exquisite public health expert and specialist. Now, the president of the Nigerian Young Academy, Dr. Egbeto Kumar.
Yes, correct.
I'm correct.
Yes, sir.
Dr. John Egbeto. The chairman of the conference organizing committee, whose name has stuck in my head, Tosin Rotimi, I believe it is.
Yes.
Dr. Tosin Rotimi. I had to Google you to see who Dr. Rotimi was. And then I saw that you are at Covenant University, etc., etc. The conference organizing committees, the executive council of the Nigerian Young Academy, all other protocols duly observed. Let me say good morning to all and start by thanking the Executive Council and members of the Nigerian Young Academy for inviting me, and I particularly want to single out Dr. Tope Shubamu, who did not allow me to sleep. In order for me not to say no, because my initial reaction is that usually it's very easy for me to be able, that I would not want to accept and not be able to be here this morning. So, Dr. Shubamu, keep doing your good work. And of course, the conference planning committee who invited me and made sure that I was here to deliver the keynote address this morning. It's quite my pleasure to be here. If you know me, I am a motivator for young people, and I feel I always derive a lot of joy for seeing young people becoming great ones, becoming my colleagues. And by the grace of God, if I say in all modesty that at the University of Lagos management today, virtually everybody there have been my mentees. I have every authority to say that. So it's my pleasure to be here this morning, and I have 30 minutes for my presentation. President, I hope I will have the 30 minutes. If I stay a little bit, I already have it. Thank you very much for giving me that privilege. My presentation will cover the following. I will quickly do an outline of the presentation in 2 slides. I will try to introduce what the SDGs are in another 2 slides. I think if I move here, it might be better for people. And then we want to look at science, research, and policy for SDGs. Strategic paradigm shift that is needed. I will put some theoretical basis to it for you. What is the research policy landscape in Nigeria? I will be looking at that and priorities for attaining SDGs. And the challenges and implications for research policy. Then we'll close with recommendations and some concluding remarks. I want to say that there is a summary of my presentation, and I see it was captured at the back of the document in your hands. So if you are unable to, and then the slides will be available, it's already available with the conference organizing committee, so it can be shared. But if you'd like to take notes, you can do that. And what is interesting is, when I got the invitation, and you asked me to come and talk about the SDGs, I said, how did you know I was involved in Nigeria's preparations for SDGs, that you thought that I would be a good person to talk to you on it? But well, here am I with you. Now, it started in 2015, this whole idea of SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. When the General Assembly of the United Nations adopted the resolution transforming our world, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Of course, the United Nations is nothing but a body of countries deciding to look at how to move the world forward. So the vision presented in that resolution is essentially transforming our world for the better. And transforming our world for the better was to be based on 5 values, what we popularly call the 5 Ps: the people, the planet, prosperity, peace, and partnership. And through it, 17 Sustainable Development Goals were developed. Let me say that the 17 did not come up overnight. It was as a result of 2 years of several meetings, of intense public engagement. Some of us were shuttling between New York and Lagos, gestating the whole idea of the Sustainable Development Goals. So the United Nations Development Goals came into force in 2015 and contained 17, as I said, aimed at ensuring the planning and implementation of programs to utilize available global resources. This is where my emphasis is. To utilize available global resources to meet the needs of the present as well as the future generations at little or no expense to the latter by 2030. That is to say, we utilize the resources without mortgaging the future of generations that are coming. So we don't get selfish. We don't, spend the resources of today so that those coming tomorrow will not have anything to enjoy. So the SDGs are intended to be achieved by the year 2030. US global goals aim to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure prosperity for everyone by 2030. 2030 is 10 years down the line. And as we go into my presentation, I will show you that we are in big trouble. Big trouble that we only have 10 years to have attained 17 goals. How far have we gone? You see in my presentation. Now, the place of research and policy in the realization of the goals is targets and cannot be underestimated. The goals are designed indeed with the belief that research will happen to make us attain the goals. So the agenda stresses the fundamental role that science must play in creating the knowledge needed for realizing the vision of the sustainability. Now, let us quickly look at what the SDGs. As I said, I have only a few slides on that. Nearly all the countries in the world have promised to improve the planet and the lives of its citizens by 2030. The Agenda 2030 is a commitment to eradicate poverty and achieve sustainable development by 2030 worldwide, ensuring that no one is left behind, meaning the inequalities in the world would have been evened out. So there won't be a poor country, there won't be a rich country. There won't be developed, there won't be underdeveloped countries by 2030. 2030, as I keep reminding you, is only 10 years down the line. The nations of the world have committed themselves to these life-changing goals outlined by the UN as far back as 2015. Now, the 17 goals has 169 targets, 169 targets, covering a broad range of sustainable development issues, from poverty eradication to life underwater to life in the air, all over the place. These include ending poverty and hunger, improving health and education, making cities more sustainable, combating climate change, and protecting oceans and forests. Very ambitious goals, very, very ambitious goals. And I quickly put it here, a table showing you the 17, zero hunger, good health and well-being. Well, no poverty is number one. That is the one for us developing countries, that there will be no poverty, that everybody living in Lagos will be as rich as the person living in Amsterdam by 2030. Zero hunger, that nobody will go to sleep without having eaten the previous day's meal by 2030. Good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, clean water and sanitation, affordable and clean energy, decent work and economic growth, industry, innovation and infrastructure, sustainable cities and communities, responsible consumption and production, climate action, life below water, life on land, peace, justice, and strong institutions, partnership for the goals. Within 17, if we can achieve it, then the whole world will be the same. Inequalities would have been erased. In summary, to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure prosperity by 2030. So I put this up front for you to see what the sustainable development goals are. They are ambitious goals, they are useful goals, but are they achievable? Are they attainable? How far have we gone with them? Now, I quickly go to science, research, and policy for the SDGs. The 2030 agenda and the sustainable development goals set a very ambitious vision for what humanity needs to accomplish by the year 2030. But with just 10 years left, the United Nations has declared a decade of action, because the monitoring mechanisms of the United Nations has shown that it's only 10 years down the line. So this year, the United Nations has now declared a decade of action with an urgent call for accelerating everything possible to be accelerated towards achieving the SDGs. Fundamental of this effort is the rethinking of the role of science, finance, and policy, And that's what is interest to you and to me as a fellow of the Nigerian Academy of Science. That science has been recognized as one of the things that will make us achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. But beyond progress in each of these areas separately, the interaction between science and policy is critical to tackling global challenges and achieving the SDGs. So it was fascinating and very, very hard, value thinking of the Nigerian Young Academy to think of how will research policy assist us in realizing the SDGs. For you to think it out as your theme for your 10th anniversary, fantastic idea. And I congratulate you, I congratulate the executive committee for bringing out this topic, because it's so topical and so relevant that we are there now. The United Nations has declared a decade of action and has recognized science, it has recognized finance, and the right policies to achieving the goals. So the question then is the United Nations correct in thinking that there is a nexus between science, research, and policy in attaining the SDGs? So I ask the question, is there a convincing nexus between science, research, and policy in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals? Policy, on the one hand, are sets of rules and statements put forward by government or an organization to drive and enforce plans in particular sectors for the development of nations. Policy are those plans you put in place for development of the nation. So in recent times, the import of research in driving policy and indeed research evidence in informing policy has been widely advocated as a sure means to achieve meaningful and tangible outcomes of government development policies. So we say science offers one of the few possibilities for an objective viewpoint on any issues in the world. That's the value in science. It's the only instrument that offers objective viewpoint on any issues whatsoever. In science, where we say there is no democracy in science. An atom is an atom. You don't have to vote whether an atom is an individual particle. It's exact. So we then say the railroad is not working. Okay. I wanted the next slide. There is a computer glitch. Back one more. Okay, so now let's see. Okay, good. I think we're there. So research by definition, we've been talking about science, but research now is a systematic set of activities driven by scientific hypotheses and theories towards solving problems, ultimately eliciting developmental impact in the society. The scientific inquiry method gives logical and fact-based explanations for almost any issues, whether cultural, physical, or social phenomena. Hence, scientific policies and inquiry plays a critical role in informing and directing human decisions and actions. The Nigerian Academy of Science has since put that before government, that policies and inquiry must play a critical role in directing human decisions. Now, we need a paradigm shift because we are only 10 years away. Previous national policy documents, e.g. the Brundtland report of the World Council on Empowerment and Development, stress the key role of science for sustainable development. But the current call in the 2030 agenda represents a fundamental shift in the dialogue between science and policy. You see, the Broadman report stressed the importance of science, but did not bring out that there needs to be a dialogue between science and policy. So now, the UN Decade of Action, after they realized that we're only 10 years away, has called for a paradigm shift, which represented by SDGs as compared to the earlier MDGs, in particular their broad and interconnected nature, that we need a new set of systems and of research priorities to inform strategies to address these interconnected goals. What are we saying here? We are saying here now that whatever it was that we were doing before, we have not attained where we want to be because we have not brought out the importance and the nexus between science and policy, between research, the need for research to attain all the goals. And in scientific research, essentially, for all the 17 goals, if you go through them one by one, there is none of them that doesn't require scientific research. Even the one on gender, you have to carry out some scientific research to be able to attain that goal. So new and focused research and new ways of inquiry and methods driven by innovative policies now become a sine qua non if the goals and targets are to be attained. Now I say that in developing countries like Nigeria, SDGs realization through the mainstreaming of research and policy is daunting. Nigeria, being the most populous nation in Africa, is embattled with developmental challenges that are compounded by security issues, ethno-religious, ethno-political religious fracas, and seeming poor to average attention to research by the government. Because in Nigeria of today, part of the various problems we have is our non-attention to science. I keep telling people, I said it in another audience, that the security issues we have are tied to lack of bringing science into what we're doing. The cattle rearer issues are related to climate change issues. Climate change is beginning to ravage, and desertification is ravaging the north. So the cattle rearers have to move down south. The process of moving down south, they are not properly managed. There is no scientific data to show how they can manage the thing, and that's where we have all the security issues. They come down south, they start kidnapping, they start doing all what we see that are happening today. So ethno-religious issues, security issues are all tied to lack of inputting science, mainstreaming science into what we do. Now, there is a fantastic suggestion, but not mine, essentially from Schneider et al., that the production of knowledge relevant to sustainable development must entail analytic engagement with norms and values. Analytic engagement with norms and values through 4 tasks. Number 1 task is to unravel and critically reflect on the ethical values involved in sustainability. Values should increasingly become an empirical and theoretical object of sustainability research. But what we are having now is that ethical values are not inputted into what we do, and that's why we are running into problems that we are running into. Secondly, ensure that whatever research we're doing on social ecological systems are related to sustainability values. Ensure that researchers should reflect on and spell out what sustainability values guide their research, and taking into account possible interdependencies, synergies, and trade-offs. It's a loaded statement, that one. The third task is to find common ground on what sustainability means for specific situations. Scientists should therefore engage in deliberate learning processes with societal actors. And number 4, Schneider et al. Further suggested that researchers and scientific disciplines must clarify their own ethical and epistemic values as this will define the accountability, and that this will ultimately shape the identification of relevant priority problems, research questions, and results. What are we saying here? That whatever we start as a way forward, we need to get analytic in what we're doing. We need to analyze properly before moving forward. Now, I have keyed into this Schneider postulates, as I think that ignoring the first one, whether one is in favor of the 2030 agenda, will undermine the credibility and relevance of scientific contributions for sustainable development. What I'm saying is that if we do not take these 4 points into our theoretical thinking of the way forward, we will continue to miss out, and we will never get to the 10-year target that we're talking about. I want to say that, of course, there are interrelationships of the different dimensions of research and policy for sustainable development. The first level is that the moral issues have to be dealt with. The second level, ecological, social, economic issues have to be dealt with. The third level is that you have to bring in legal, technological, and political dimensions. And you have to fully integrate all of this in your development apparatus, otherwise you will fail. So in essence, the principle of sustainable development is an ethical principle of differential responsibilities. It's also a reflection of the fact that the same cannot be required from the poor as well as from the rich countries. As we want to smoothen out inequality. Whether we can achieve it is another matter. Now, after all the theoretical considerations, let's look at what is the research policy landscape in Nigeria. What is the situation with research policy in Nigeria? Firstly, the overall goal of this presentation is to espouse ways in which the practice of research in Nigeria can be driven towards attaining the 2030 agenda or be adapted towards achieving the norms of sustainability. In Nigeria, the main institutional drivers, as we all know, that's not news to us, for research are universities, research institutions, technological institutions, research and development laboratories. Theoretically, Nigeria has a well-established S&T infrastructure, which includes 140 universities, 125 mono and stroke polytechnics. At the last count, there are over 300 research institutes, centers, laboratories scattered all over Nigeria. And there are hundreds, myriads of qualified experts and several international partnerships going on in Nigeria. So we have this S&T infrastructure, but where have they led us? I said that these are the research cordons of focus for contributing to the SDGs, but then to be relevant for the SDGs attainment. Now, for these institutions and the researchers to generate knowledge that is relevant to achieving sustainable development, they will need to engage analytically in the sustainability song. What is missing so far in Nigeria is that our S&T cauldrons are not intertwined with our sustainability development at all. I think it might be easier I just go with. I think we're there now. Research outputs emanating from universities. Can you come back a little bit? One back. Aha, let's see. Yes, we're in the right place now. Research outputs emanating from universities, research institutions, and knowledge brokering rules expected from national academies, such as the Nigerian Academy of Science, of Engineering, of Arts, and so on, are expected to inform policies and decision-making by government to drive sustainable development across various sectors of the economy and its people. Because there are research outputs coming out of our academies, coming out of the Nigerian Young Academy, the Academy of Arts, the Academy of Engineering, and all that, But are they being used is the question. The valuable and unique role to be played by S&T has led it to become fundamental to the growth and development of our society. The metrics for classifying nations any day and any time as a developed country or a developing country are intertwined with the ability of those countries to leverage science for economic gains and improving livelihoods. And that's the missing link. The country is said to be developed, another one is said to be underdeveloped, depending on how much science is going into the development and the economy of that country. Policy priorities for attaining SDGs. Policy instruments that engender attainment of the SDGs goals, targets, and indicators need to be established. In other words, what we are saying is that the guiding orientation for researchers will not just be their curiosity. Contrary to what is assumed by many advocates of basic research, but the effort must be directed to the relevance of their work to sustainability. You know, we are saying that there has to be a paradigm shift. We've been working on basic research in which out of your curiosity is what you focus on. But the argument now is in achieving the SDGs, in achieving sustainability goals, we now need to change from that situation. So, henceforth, the selection of our research topics and questions shall depend on the sustainability norms and values. That's the point that I'm trying to put across this morning. That we should go past this stage where what we do is essentially based on curiosity. Oh, why is this in white? I want to investigate why it's white. No longer research must go in that direction, but how does that contribute to sustainability, to any of the 17 sustainability goals? So we analyze the sustainability goals and determine what research will be needed to achieve any one of them. Each of the 17 sustainability goals with their corresponding targets and indicators are expected to drive research agenda. That's what we're saying, that your research agenda must now be driven by the sustainability development goals, not necessarily doing research for research sake. And we are saying that all the research institutions, universities, and other agencies of government must back this up with resources, facilities and funding, monitoring and evaluation, and sustainable development driven products in order to make people achieve what we are suggesting should be the way to go. Research and development for policy should therefore be focused on sectors that are strategic for the sustainable development of the country. Research policies shall be constructed to ensure that there are sufficient resources for science. Policies must embed strong financial incentives, such as direct subsidies, R&D grants, to reduce the high cost of research. What I'm driving at here is that our policies for science research now must begin to change. It must begin to change towards focusing them on sustainable development goals. But in doing that, there must be some priorities and there are challenges. In a few minutes, I will take you through those. Next slide, please. If we must achieve what we are talking about, number one is coordination. Coordination and mainstreaming of the SDGs within government agenda. We must ensure that all the 17 development goals and their targets are properly assigned and integrated within frameworks of public institutions. We have 17 development goals. We have over 30 or 32 ministries at the federal government level. Why don't we divide the sustainable development goals to 17 and embed them in relevant ministries and let them continue to work towards that if we must achieve it. We must think of backcasting from the goals to the right policies and investments. And by backcasting, I mean working backwards from the goals to identify the investments and policies that are needed to build infrastructure to achieve such SDGs. This can be easily done once we've assigned the development goals to different government agencies and different parts of our infrastructure for S&T. There is need to establish institutional mechanisms to help coordinate sectoral policy makers and agencies responsible for the implementation and evaluation. That's not all. There's also some other policy priorities, coordinated budgeting and costing. What we are finding is that there is tight fiscal environment in Nigeria, which means there is need for more effective and efficient ways to leverage on the investments. The little money that we are putting into research, let us correctly use them in a manner that we can say that we want to achieve our goals. The other thing is that we need policies for data generation, for monitoring and research management. What we are finding in Nigeria is that everybody is carrying out research. Everybody says he's doing research. Is there anybody monitoring whether the research is focused on our needs, on our development? Do we have data to tell us how far we are doing with respect to investments that are going into research? Do we track the SDGs attainment, whether with our research, are they relevant? Are we tracking them by income? Are we tracking them by sex, by age? Because each of our development goals refer to different sectors of the economy. So these are the various issues that we are having. But apart from that, we need to retune, refine our policy directives or policy directions to meet with achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. You asked us to look at challenges and implications for research policy. Very correctly and very apt that we need to look at what are the challenges that will make us not even meet this 10-year decade of action that the United Nations has declared. And with that again, I want to get theoretical. Why we are where we are, why we are where we are. For instance, Schneider pointed out in a paper in 2019 that the challenges to research and policy aiding the attainment of the SDGs are globally systemic, meaning that it's not only a Nigerian problem. Globally, we are not achieving the Sustainable Development Goals because of some systemic issues which go from country to country. And calling for action at all component levels, national, regional, and global science systems. From scientists themselves to the institutions in which they work and the policymakers that shape the conditions under which they work. So it's not just a Nigerian problem, but globally, each of all the contributing parties to the United Nations have the same problems. Research priorities need to be agreed upon. Relevant capacities need to be strengthened and mobilized across a range of competencies, meaning that new approaches to integrative solutions-oriented knowledge production need to be pursued. New knowledge partnerships need to be forged, and effective policies to support science for the public good must be put in place. What we are seeing so far is that there is no integrative approach to the inquiries, to the scientific inquiries. There is no integrative approach to ensuring that we do things for public good. So in this multi-dimensional challenge space, the conflicting understanding of roles of different stakeholders is therefore of critical importance. Next slide. So there is a disconnect between research and policies and the SDGs. That disconnect is very worrisome. It's a very big challenge in the sense that what we are having is that there is no link to show the SDGs as good drivers for research policies to achieve sustainable development. No link at all. Public bodies in charge of research policies, that is the national councils, the ministries, do not have enough leverage to push their own agendas across all the ministries. In fact, policies sometimes suffer institutional changes, which are again sometimes strengthened or undermined by political agenda. We change the permanent secretary of the Ministry of Science and Technology almost on an annual basis. We change the directors of research institutes almost on an annual basis. So what does that mean? It means that there is no continuity at all. There is a general policy somersault. One DG comes, he thinks the best thing to do is this. Another one comes, he says, no, that's not my priority. So the disconnect between policies and the SDGs is a major issue. Again, there is no strong oversight of SDGs within priorities of government. Government has a unit called the Sustainable Development Goals in the presidency, but that's where it ends. It's not as if government takes any extra effort to ensure that the SDGs are implemented. Research outcomes may take longer than the lifespan of an organization to drive continuity, and then you lose focus. As I said, research is not something that can happen overnight. Once the head of that institution changes, the new one comes and says, no, that's no longer a priority, and yet the research has not gotten completed, and at the end of the day, we find that we lose focus. And all of this is tied to the lack of a research culture. Sometimes some people argue that yes, there's a research culture, you might just say it is weak. But my own argument is that there is a lack of a national institutional research culture in our country. It takes the Nigerian Academy of Science a lot of trouble to be able to get across to the Ministry of Science and Technology to get ideas from the academy. The framework for research policies are weak. We've been driving to get a national law to institutionalize the Nigerian Academy for some time now. The National Assembly is each regime of the National Assembly keeps looking at the law and they keep throwing it up and down, throwing it up and down. So the framework is weak. There are overlapping functions of agencies which hinder SDG implementation. The ministries and public research agencies elaborate their own targets, which are often not harmonized to SDG targets and the global goal. So many times there is a mismatch between the objectives and instruments used for policy. Again, there is even a lack of vertical and horizontal coordination, which is very critical. Which is a very critical one. The fact that there is lack of coordination of any type, either vertical or horizontal. And so what do we get? We get policy somersaults. Universities, which everybody looks on to help, are usually mainly focused on teaching or carrying out basic research. Academics like myself commonly, until very recently that changes are coming, commonly prefer to work on things out of their curiosity rather than things that are relevant for nation building. And you don't blame them because it's publish or perish in the university. So everybody wants things that will get immediately published in international journals. For it to get into international journals, they must have global relevance. If you work on things that are just locally relevant, then you have the challenge of having it published. So all of these are issues that are making us have a very weak research culture, making us be in a situation where we are not able to impact or get the SDGs attained. So we say that research, even in most of universities or in most of our research institutions, are weakly linked to the private sector, leading to a dearth of private sector financial resources for research. It is only about 3 or 4 months ago that Tech Fund, in its wisdom, is now deciding to bring private sector into the research apparatus of the country. I can say, yes, a new body has been set up called the Research and Development Standing Committee of Tech Fund. That body is doing nothing else but trying to woo the Dangotes and all the oil companies of this world to come and contribute to research in Nigeria. But that enterprise or that action has only just started. We don't know how successful it will be. So that we can improve the linkage between the private sector and the research corridors of Nigeria. Next slide. Poor funding. Yes, of course, poor funding continues to be a major challenge for us in whatever we're doing with respect to research. It's a big challenge. And that big challenge is because there is a lack of recognition of the SDG targets to strengthen the pitch for funds to support research. Only very few people even know about the SDG targets, not to talk of trying to think of funding it. R&D investment by the private sector is scanty. Public programs are generally underfunded. Private sector financial support for research activity is scanty and even non-existent in some instances in Nigeria. There is limited budget by government because SDGs are not a priority, or research generally is not even a priority. And therefore, there is so much of limited budget by government. The low budgetary allocation for healthcare, for shelter, for education, whereas many targets of SDGs are situated. We scream that the education sector is poorly funded. We scream that the health sector is poorly funded. We scream that things that have to do with housing, with shelter, are poorly funded. And these are all the major goals in the 17 SDGs. So that's why we are where we are with respect to attainment of the SDGs. And of course, research indicators are absent. Where they are not absent, they are not collected periodically or systematically. And the effect of that is a flawed policy and budget evaluation exercise. So overall, we say that funding is so poor and continues to be a major challenge for us. Mr. President, I quickly go to recommendations and conclusions now. The COVID-19 pandemic, we can't but refer to it in a talk like this. Look at how we're all hooded by our mouth. Making us look like people from trying to get into space or something like that. Because of the COVID-19 pandemic. It's ravaging the world since its inception in 2019. And these have necessitated top considerations of integrating research and scientific advisory into government policies and decision making. We are hoping that this pandemic would have generated lessons for us and for our government, for our policymakers, to appreciate that we need to integrate research and scientific advisory into whatever it is we are doing. We have no option. Anyway, we listened to the Presidential Task Force when they decided that churches should not open. No one opens it. Whether it's based on scientific advisory or scientific data is another thing altogether. Whether it's imported from Europe or from somewhere, we don't, but we know that there is a Presidential Task Force guiding us on what and what not to do with respect to the pandemic in the means of slowing down the pandemic. So we need to do more, is what we are saying. It has also highlighted the need for investment. This pandemic has highlighted the need for investment in demand-driven, conceptual and impactful research that can guide decision-making when needed. It's very clear that from the experience of the pandemic, we need to now start thinking of demand-driven research, impactful research, so that we don't just import ideas wholesale from abroad, even when it doesn't fit for our own systems. If Nigeria would take its place as a leader in Africa, which it should be, and indeed a beacon of hope to the next generation in the global landscape, the following recommendations are put forward. Number one, demand-driven research must be encouraged at relevant, research-based and tertiary institutions across the country, targeted at specific SDGs and national priorities. Policy implications of research must be put forward in all our research proposals and agenda setting. There must be capacity building of particularly early career researchers and imperatives. Capacity building of early career researchers are imperatives to assure the sustainability of excellent research base that can inform government decision making. It is obvious that you all need capacity building. Members of the Nigerian Young Academy need capacity building. Even those of us who are said to be the senior ones in Nigerian Academy of Science also require there is no end to knowledge, there is no end to learning, there is no end to new ideas, innovation coming into place. So policy makers and government MDs should be carried along or collaborated with at various phases in research work at universities for potential uptake of outputs. The role of industries and the private sector as partners in facilitating research output uptake, innovation and development should be explored actively by all stakeholders. We want to say that SDG education should be incorporated into curricula and training of researchers at all levels of tertiary education and government technocrats. Concluding, I want to say the role of science in transforming our world towards a more sustainable future and achieving the SDGs cannot be in controversy. Science is important in achieving the SDGs. That's not debatable at all. The UN Decade of Action, passed a few months ago, says it very, very clearly. So science can inform policy, but policies can and should direct science towards a greater and more equal goal. So we say that science can inform policy, yes, but policies should direct science as to what it should do. We cannot rest on our laurels. The goalposts of development are constantly shifting. No country is waiting for the other one. Countries continue to advance. So the goalposts are constantly shifting. In fact, inequalities are worsening, with more developed countries diverging from the rest in all aspects of life that are vital for development. That's the unfortunate thing. If you go abroad, every day you arrive in London, you will see road construction. They are constantly changing whatever it is. You think, the road you passed last month and you thought was an excellent road, you find road construction going on. So they are constantly improving and constantly changing to improve their life. So building stronger global partnership for SDGs related research and science is now more than before urgently needed. I think that's the last slide. To achieve the SDGs, there is a continuing need for research and policy development in some already well-established areas of the 17 goals. I'm saying that because we cannot say that of all the 17 goals, we are not carrying out research in any one of them. We are, but we need to do more. We need to improve on what we are doing for those parts of the 17 goals that we're already working on. We also need to intensify more research in key areas that will be continuously identified by national policymakers. Indeed, identifying appropriate conceptual research frameworks as well as typologies of research examples may be a solution to provide answers to some of the substantive policymaker questions that are bound to arise in the national implementation of the SDGs. Finally, I want to say very, very clearly that this is not the beginning and end of the story. Some of the perspectives I've espoused here are meant to generate further dialogue amongst your academy, in my academy, and all the academies. This is to stimulate dialogue that we have 10 years only left to go with respect to the SDGs. We all agree that the SDGs are important goals. Trying to get into space or something like that. Because of the COVID-19 pandemic. It's ravening the world since its injection in 2019. And this has necessitated top considerations of integrating research and scientific advisory into government policies and decision making. We are hoping that this pandemic will have generated lessons for us and for our government, for our policymakers, to appreciate that we need to integrate research and scientific advice into whatever it is we are doing. We have no option. Anyway, we listened to the Presidential Task Force when they decided that churches, mosques should not open. No one opens it. Whether it's based on scientific advisory or scientific data is another thing altogether. Whether it's imported from Europe or from somewhere, we do, but we know that there is a presidential task force guiding us on what and what not to do with respect to the pandemic, the means of slowing down the pandemic. So we need to do more, is what we are saying. It has also highlighted the need for investment. This pandemic has highlighted the need for investment in demand-driven, conceptual and impactful research that can guide decision making when needed. It's very clear that from the experience of the pandemic, we need to now start thinking of demand-driven research, impactful research, so that we don't import ideas wholesale from abroad, even when it doesn't fit for our own systems. If Nigeria would take its place as a leader in Africa, which it should be, and indeed a beacon of hope to the next generation in the global landscape, the following recommendations are put forward. Number one, demand-driven research must be encouraged at relevant research-based and tertiary institutions across the country, targeted at specific SDGs and national priorities. Policy implications of research must be put forward in all our research proposals and agenda setting. There must be capacity building of particularly early career researchers and imperatives. Capacity building of early career researchers are imperatives to assure the sustainability of excellent research base that can inform government decision making. It is obvious that you all need capacity building. Members of the Nigerian Young Academy need capacity building. Even those of us who are said to be the senior ones in Nigerian Academy of Science also require, there is no end to knowledge, there is no end to learning, there is no end to new ideas, innovation coming into place. So policy makers and government MBAs should be carried along or collaborated with at various phases in research work as advances for potential uptake of outputs. The role of industries and the private sector as partners in facilitating research output uptake, innovation and development should be explored actively by all stakeholders. We want to say that SDG education should be incorporated into curricula and training of researchers at all levels of tertiary education and government technocrats. Concluding, I want to say the role of science in transforming our world towards a more sustainable future and achieving the SDGs cannot be in controversy. Science is important in achieving the SDGs. That's not debatable at all. The UN Decade of Action passed a few months ago said it very, very clearly. So science can inform policy, but policies can and should direct science towards a greater and more equal good. So we say that science can inform policy, yes, but policies should direct science as to what it should do. We cannot rest on our laurels. The goalposts of development are constantly shifting. No country is waiting for the other one. Countries continue to advance. So the goalposts are constantly shifting. In fact, inequalities are worsening, with more developed countries diverging from the rest in all aspects of life that are vital for development. That's the unfortunate thing. If you go abroad, every day you arrive in London, you will see road construction. They are constantly changing whatever it is. You think, the road you passed last month and you thought was an excellent road, you find road construction going on. So they are constantly improving and constantly changing to improve their life. So building stronger global partnership for SDGs related research and science is now more than before urgently needed. I think that's the last slide. To achieve the SDGs, there is a continuing need for research and policy development in some already well-established areas of the 17 goals. I'm saying that because we cannot say that of all the 17 goals, we are not carrying out research in any one of them. We are, but we need to do more. We need to improve on what we're doing for those parts of the 17 goals that we're already working on. We also need to intensify more research in key areas that may be continuously identified by national policymakers. Indeed, identifying appropriate conceptual research frameworks as well as typologies of research examples may be a solution to provide answers to some of the substantive policymaker questions that are bound to arise in the national implementation of the SDGs. Finally, I want to say very, very clearly that this is not the beginning and end of the story. Some of the perspectives I have espoused here are meant to generate further dialogue amongst your academy, my academy, and all the academies. This is to stimulate dialogue that we have 10 years only left to go with respect to the SDGs. We all agree that the SDGs are important goals to improve human living. We all agree that the SDGs are relevant for improving our style and our living conditions. But are we there? Are we doing anything towards them? That's the issue that I want to leave with all of you. I thank you very much for your attention.
Yes. Can I humbly request that we rise and applaud our keynote speaker once again. Thank you. We can sit. Prof, thank you again for that very distinguished lecture, fully loaded. When I said at the beginning that we have put a round peg in the round hole, and when Prof started his lecture, he mentioned something which I put down in form of a question. But how did we get to know that he is involved in the formulation and realization of SDGs? From which I should just answer that since you are our mentor, we always source the best. And he challenged us throughout the lecture. And one summary that I took from one of the slides is that we've got to end poverty, protect planet, and ensure prosperity by the year 2030. continue to stress that 2030 is just 10 years time. And so, as a country and continent, where are we? And if we do not consider those theoretical frameworks that we have put forward for the realization of SDGs in just 10 years' time, we are going to be left behind. I'm sure we are not prepared to be left behind. So, zero hunger by the year 2020. That's a great thing to do. And I think it's a long journey for us. But then, we just go to work. Please, this time around I'm not going to use the power of a microphone holder, but I will crave your indulgence to do a little rearrangement to the program so that we can assign so that we can quickly ask our honorable EAS to do the assignments that is meant to do for us here. It is as a result of the importance of this program that he is with us actually. He has a lot of things to do today, but then he just has to be here. I will assume rightly that all the inductees are sitting close to the front, just like we requested in the beginning of the program. And so we go straight to membership induction and presentation of their citation and technical crew, please get ready for playing or showing us the necessary video for the induction. So if we go to page 10 of the program booklet, we have the list of 2020 NYA inductees running from that page. And so I would like to invite the first inductee, yes, wisdom from the elders and guidance. So if we have questions now, I'm sure a lot of things bothering our mind when Prof was delivering the lecture. So questions, we can take questions now. So you can direct your questions to Prof before you. Okay? Can I recognize ones? Okay. So if you prefer to write it, you can write it and pass it forward.
Yes, I was wondering if the questions
If you
are
write,
going to be
can
permitted for such a distinguished lecture.
Sir.
Your name and
Okay, I'm Udo Chukwubola Akuru, University of Nigeria, Nsukka. Okay, Prof, thank you so much for the lecture. I'm meeting you for the first time and also knowing you. It is such an honor. SDG is something that I've been familiar with. It's just a quick one to save time. At the introduction you mentioned it was inaugurated I think in 2015. So, but I think I have known about it for some time before then. I'm really at a loss. So maybe you give me some small history, because sometimes we just run into the thing and we don't know the history. Okay, that said, I also looked at
I also had the opportunity to look at the number of SDGs, 17 of them, and surprisingly, Prof, I'm wondering, is this list a sacrosanct list? Because I see something very prominent missing from there, which continues to ring out through your lecture. The issue of governance was not, it's surprising that it was left out. And I'm wondering, was the SDG established in the form of, saying it is politically correct? Maybe they were not trying to offend the people who will eventually, so they want to carry, I don't know, Prof, it's really something confusing to me, because you kept bringing it out, and at the end of the day you said government needs to be carried along. Well, I think government also needs to be educated on the proper means of governance. Because for a forum like this, I was also expecting that stakeholders in government should have been brought here, seated at the front, and given the opportunity to understand what researchers are doing in the country. So these are my questions, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Good morning, Professor. My question is a brief one. Before sustainable development, we had millennium development. And I want to ask the question: what was wrong with millennium development, and why talking about sustainable development?
We can take one more. Okay, one at the front. Dr. Okoli.
I must thank the presenter, our distinguished professor, for the lecture. What I wanted to say, my dear friend here actually, is just that from your lecture, some of us will notice that before now that it seems the science and research that we do in Nigeria is merely for academic research. And like you rightly observed, sometimes the people in government are not really interested in what we're doing. Like you rightly observed, none of them is here. I want to ask, is there, because I see you as a representative and you're the member of the high table of Nigerian Academy of Science, is there any effort that the academy is making to make government to be responsive to whatever we are doing in terms of research? Because like you rightly observed in your presentation, at the end of the day, whatever we come up with as a product of our research ends up in the library. So, and that makes some of us, when you know that whatever you're going to come up with doesn't make any sense or meaning to the people in charge, we begin to ask ourselves, should we continue on this road? And obviously it's a road to nowhere, so I want to know what Nigerian government and Nigerian Academy of Science is doing about it. Thank you very much once more for the interesting lecture.
Thank you very much. I start with the easiest one, which is the last speaker here, who has asked what is, although it's again related to the question of why is government not here today. You see, it's difficult to speak for the Nigerian government. And I say this because they operate as if they are illiterate, when really they are not illiterate. You cannot describe somebody like our Minister for Science and Technology, or somebody who is the Vice President, who are all professors. But what you find coming out of their tables is not exactly what you will expect that should come. So it's a major problem for Nigeria, and that's why I said it's difficult for us to talk about why are they the way they are. Fortunately, we have with us here the Executive Secretary of the Nigerian Academy of Science. He can have a one-day lecture on the efforts our academy has been doing to make government to listen to reasoned advice. Science is a planned analytical procedure of analyzing problems and providing solutions. Nigerian Academy of Science has, I don't know, almost 300 fellows. Like he said, becoming a fellow of the Academy of Science means you are tops in your specialty, because it's not open to just anybody. Every year the maximum that can come in is 10 by the constitution of the academy, and every year 100 apply. So it's the best of the best. That academy says to government, we have this solution for you. We go to the meeting, they will listen, you will sit across the table like this, and you will see them nodding heads. But by the time we get out of the door and we are back to Akoka, where the academy office is, tomorrow it's another thing that we will find coming up. So it's not a case of the academy not doing anything. I can assure you that the academy knows its role. It knows that the role is to provide seasoned advice to government on several different issues, and is doing it. But whether government is using it is another matter, and I can't talk for government. Why they are not here today, I don't know. There is an SDG office, as I said in my presentation, of the presidency, as we all know. An issue like this, and it has branches. The SDG office in Abuja has branches. There is an SDG office in Lagos State Secretariat, Lagos State Government. While they are not here, I'm sure the academy must have invited them, because an issue like SDG, the SDG office ought to be represented, but they are not here. So it's difficult for one to say that we can talk for government. What we can do is what we are doing, advocacy, continue to say at some point. What I find with Nigeria is that we are very good at firefighting. Once something happens like this, then you see all the body. That's when they will remember that, Nigerian Academy of Science told us this. And they start looking for the president and the executive secretary all over the place. That is our situation, unfortunately. And the gentleman from UNN Nusuka said, I didn't quite focus on governance. Governance certainly is a major, in fact, there is nothing called policy other than governance. If you mind the way I want to put it. Now, anytime we are saying policy has nothing but to do with governance, because the policy makers are the government. You and I, who are not in government, cannot describe ourselves as policy makers. Our own is to generate knowledge that can advise policy. We call it science for policy. We do generate as much knowledge as we can, and then we pass it to government. But governance issues are related to political issues, as it is all over the globe. governance issues continue to impact the same manner that policy is either weak or absent from achieving our goals that we ought to achieve. So in effect, one can say that I didn't particularly focus on governance, but each time I assume, maybe not quite correctly, that each time I was talking policy, I'm sure my listeners were noting that I meant government. I meant the people who are to design policies for us.
Yes, Prof. You did mention, you did focus on policy, I mean governance.
Yes.
I'm actually talking about the SDGs itself. It's like it's missing.
Governance within SDGs. If you look at the 17 goals, 17 goals does not particularly bring out governance in any of the 17.
Yeah.
However, it is assumed that they are subsumed in all of them. Because for each one of the 17 goals, the 17 goals were put together by contracting parties, as we call it in the UN, by nations that are members of the NYA nations. And all the 17 goals were discussed, met over, before they were adopted in 2015. The 2015 that I indicated was the year the National General Assembly finally adopted it and passed it as something for the world. But we've been working on it since they got tired with MDGs, leading to the question, why did we leave MDGs and started jumping on SDGs? The MDGs, as you recall, was something that was to end in 2020. So if we didn't do anything about it, by now it would have caught up with us. And as I keep saying in another forum that I had opportunity to, 2020, the year 2020 has dealt with us the way it has dealt with us because we were putting too many things on 2020. Vision 2020, and 2020, is why 2020. So the year sat in one corner and was watching us. That you will see what that 2020 will give you. And it has given us. Somehow I joined the social media joke that we should erase 2020 from the calendar of the world. But truly, for everybody in this room and for all of us, we can assume that 2020 didn't exist. Because you cannot point to anything concrete that you say you have succeeded in doing in 2020. So that's why nothing was wrong with MDGs, but it was going to expire by 2020. So it was necessary to come up with something more robust, more elaborate. We must say very clearly, and during the negotiations of the SDGs, we were conscious of the fact that we wanted something more robust than the SDGs. And our focus was eradicating poverty. The focus was trying to find a way of closing the gap between the rich and the poor. I don't know whether we have anywhere going towards it at all. COVID-19 has even further now worsened it. Though some people will say that in fact COVID-19 may have helped us to come to show the developed world that with all their power, we can catch up with them. If somehow something slows down their development, like this pandemic, and then if we can use the opportunity to come, since we are not as ravaged as they are, use it to come near them. But I don't know whether we have the wherewithal to be able to do that. So, SDG was passed in 2015.